train your Gavin. Read those books in a blink, oh yeah. Grab yourself a hot drink cause you're watching How to Train Your Gavin.
Yep, that's me.
Hi guys, welcome back to How to Train Your Gavin. Today I am going to be going through some middle grade recommendations to read during fall or autumn or any other word for this time of year. So you can start wearing jumpers again, you can get your pumpkin spice lattes, which if you're living in the UK right now, Starbucks still have not yet released their pumpkin spice latte. Anyway, I digress. It is also the perfect time to read some spooky middle grades. So I'm going to give you some great children's book recommendations as the spooky season approaches. The first series I want to talk about is aimed at younger readers, but I still absolutely adore the series anyway, and that is the Amelia Fang series by Laura Ellen Anderson. This one I have described as a cross between The Addams Family and The Nightmare Before Christmas. This one follows Amelia, who is a vampire living in Nocturnia. Nocturnia is a place where the creatures of the dark live, so we've got vampires, ghosts, Grim Reapers, Yetis, rare breeds of Yeti, and the creatures of Nocturnia are terrified of the creatures of the light. And it's a very humorous but really spooky series. I absolutely adore this. It's perfect for the Halloween season coming up. It's gorgeously gothic. It is illustrated by Laura Ellen Anderson herself. It has the most brilliant of gothic illustrations inside too. There are 7 books in the series. The 7th and final book is coming out on October 1st. That one's going to be called Amelia, Fang and the Trouble with Toad, so I'm really excited to read that one. So while this is a series that is aimed at younger readers, I do genuinely love it even as an adult. The next book is a very new book, and that is The Haunting of Aveline Jones by Phil Hicks. This one is essentially a ghost story. We follow Aveline, who goes to stay with her Aunt Lillian for a few days as she's off school, and her Aunt Lillian lives in a house in this very peculiar little town where all of the houses have these scarecrows outside, but they are the scarecrows of sick children, and there's a whole thing about that. It's really interesting to find out. But Aveline goes to this bookstore. She discovers this book of ghost stories, and the last ghost story in the book is crossed out. She can't read it, and then she discovers that this book actually belonged to a girl who went missing 30 years ago. So we have this ghost story that's tied in with this disappearance of a girl that happened a very long time ago. The atmosphere in this is just perfect for the fall season. There are little bits of illustrations throughout as well, and they really do add to the atmosphere, as I've said, and even just the look of the cover as well with the orange and the scarecrow in the background there. It is literally perfect for this time of year. So it's quite short. It is a very fast and easy read, but it's just so atmospheric, and I genuinely love this kind of ghost story. It was so immersive, and I love the setting of the town as well. The characters can be quite quirky, and it's great story. So definitely check this one out as well to get you in the mood for fall. The next book is The Hungry Ghost by H.S. Norib. This one follows Freya, who goes to live in Singapore with her father and her stepmom and her step-siblings as well. And when she arrives there, they're actually celebrating the Hungry Ghost Festival, which is a festival where ghosts are allowed to take a break from the underworld, like the realm of the dead, and they can seek food and entertainment. Well, Freya comes across this young girl who has long black hair, a white dress, and she ends up having to find out what happened to her. It's a really great story. I love the setting of Singapore and the exploration of that, as well as the traditions and things. I'm sure H.S. Norib spent 4 years in Singapore, I think. So there is a lot of research that's gone into this, and I really enjoyed the environment. The atmosphere was brilliant. This one comes out on September 24th, so definitely check it out. And I painted the edges myself. And one that I've talked about a couple of times on my channel by now as well is The Vanishing Trick by Jenny Spangler. This one is a very Dickensian gothic book. This one follows Leander, and he is an orphan. He comes across Madame Pinchbeck, and she ends up enchanting a locket that he owns, and she can make him appear and disappear at will. So she essentially owns him in this really unfair bargain that Leander made. She hasn't just done that to Leander. There is a girl called Charlotte and a boy called Felix who she is also trapped, and this is essentially them trying to escape the evil Madame Pinchbeck's clutches. There's a really good story behind this, and I genuinely love the whole gothic and Dickensian approach to this book. The illustrations by Chris Mould as well just really adds to that look of this book as well. I mean, just even with the cover, but the way that the characters are portrayed and the way the characters are illustrated, it really does make you feel that gothic atmosphere. And Madame Pinchbeck is just a fantastic villain as well. I just absolutely love the portrayal of her, and I love what happens at the end as well. So definitely check this one out if you haven't already. I know I've mentioned it a few times by now, but still check it out. Okay, a book that I have not read in, gosh, it's probably been like nearly 20 years since I last read this book, but that is Room 13 by Robert Swindells. I don't know how this holds up now, but I remember loving this. Now, I had to read this for school, and it was one of the books that I kind of genuinely really liked. This follows Fliss, and for a school trip with her classmates, they go to Whitby, and they stay at the Crow's Nest Hotel, and there isn't a Room 13. However, at the stroke of midnight, Room 13 appears. And I genuinely cannot remember anything beyond that. I can't remember what even happens and how Room 13 is explored or anything like that. I genuinely cannot remember. This is going to end up being a reread for me at some point. I genuinely do want to get back into this and see if I still really enjoy it. What I always found cool about this as well is that chapter 13 is blank. And I remember being so blown away by that when I was a kid. So it still blows me away as an adult. I still find that fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to have to reread this one. If it's actually rubbish, I'm sorry, but I remember loving this, so maybe adult Gavin agrees. And the last one that I've read that I would like to recommend, and before I get into the ones that I haven't read yet but really want to, the last book I want to recommend is The Switching Hour by Damaris Young. This one is set in a very small and atmospheric village where the Bedeco, I don't know how to pronounce it, but there is this really strange mythical creature that they are scared of, and it snatches children essentially. As long as you get home before dark and lock the doors, you should be safe from the Bedeco. I'm just going to call it the Bedeco. However, the main character Amelia has to look after her younger brother when her granny has to go to another person for midwife duties, and unfortunately Amelia doesn't lock the door and her younger brother gets snatched. So Amelia ends up going into the forest to try and find her brother and save him. This one again is written so well, it's so atmospheric, there are so many different things about this that I was really enjoying, and it gave me all of the really spooky fall season vibes too. Even just the colours of the cover and that kind of imagery, the very desolate and barren imagery from the cover is very present within the entire text, and I really enjoy that. It can be creepy, and it was just a really fun read. I read it in one sitting, and again, perfect to read before Halloween. So those are the books that I definitely read and would recommend. I do want to talk about 7 books that I really want to get to reading this fall for myself personally, and you never know, there might be a good recommendation in there too, and if you've read them, do let me know if you enjoyed them, but I am so excited to read these ones. The first one I'd like to read is The Dark Deep by Ali Conde and Brendan Reeks. It has a little review from R.L. Stine, the author of Goosebumps, on the cover there as well, so that was essentially why I really wanted to read this one. But this one follows 12-year-old Nico, and he falls into the murky waters of spooky Still Cove. His friends rush to his rescue. Their search reveals more than they bargained for: an island hidden in the mist and an abandoned houseboat which seems strangely alive. While deep beneath the water, something calls for them. It just, even with the cover, it looks a little bit 90s actually, like a little bit of a 90s children's / teen kind of look to it, just with the illustration, and I really enjoy that. I haven't heard anybody talk about this one at all, so this one is essentially brand new to me. I don't know what to expect from it at all. I just know that the cover looks so creepy and so good, and I like the premise, so hopefully this one will be a good read for me this year. One that I keep putting on my TBRs and just keep forgetting to read, and that is The Norib by Julie Hearn. This one was a recommendation from Michelle Harrison, who wrote A Pinch of Magic. This one is set in a very small village where rumours of bad witchcraft is spreading. A lot of people are blaming Nell for some of the magical stuff that happens there, and there is a witchfinder general who has come into the village, so Nell fears for her life. There are piskies in this, and it just seems like such a gothic looking kind of middle grade, and oh gosh, I keep meaning to read it, but obviously I haven't really been in the mood for like this kind of spookiness, but with the fall coming, I'm definitely in the mood for it now. So hopefully I'll get to read this one. Again, haven't heard many people talk about it, but also the illustrations are by Carl James Manford, and his illustrations are just chef's kiss. So looking forward to reading this one eventually. A one that I've just gotten through the post and was sent to me from the publisher because it's out on October 1st, and that is Malice in Underland by Jenny Jennings and illustrated by Hannah Peck. Dominique Valenti, the author of Starfell, has reviewed it as gloriously gothic, so I mean that instantly took my attention. I had no idea this was coming out until it came in the post. So this one follows the Malign family, and they don't just make mischief for fun, it is their business to make mischief. It says here that it's their responsibility to maintain respectable levels of gruesome among us topsiders. But when Grandad ghosts mysteriously start disappearing, including her own beloved Grandad, Malice has no choice but to put aside her mischief and solve the case. Just, it's a beautiful cover, and it also opens up like this. It looks so good. I love the look of this. I'm always constantly surprised when a new middle grade book comes out that has slipped under the radar and I had no idea about it. So this has definitely piqued my interest. The next one, I say this about all of them, but I'm genuinely so excited to read this one, and that is Crater Lake by Jennifer Killick. And this one is about a year 6 school trip to a campsite where it might be your last. Yeah, maybe it's a blood-stained man who tries to stop the coach. Maybe it's the absence of welcoming staff, but something is definitely not right at Crater Lake Activity Centre. Things get strange at night, and there is a fight for survival, and the kids who go there must work together to defeat a swarm of enemies. So I wonder if there's actually wasps in this, because it has wasps on the spine and on the back, so it just looks so creepy and atmospheric and kind of maybe like Friday the 13th but for kids maybe. I don't know, but I'm genuinely looking forward to reading this one. I've had it for a little while now, and it's by Firefly Press, and I really love their books, so I'm going to make this a priority this year. One that I should have read last year, and I was supposed to, is The Dead World of Lanthorn Ghouls by Gerald Killingworth. And this one has been called a horribly entertaining read by Chris Priestley. I love that. So you enter the Dead World. It's a place just on the other side of that door, a grey place with a dreadful secret. A boy called Edwin stumbles from our shiny world into this twilight one in search of something very precious to him. The only person who can help him is Lanthorn Ghouls, a frightened boy his own age who is trying to escape the horrifying old ways. Again, cover, it's a total cover thing for me as well. It's by Pushkin Press, and I love that publisher as well. Another one I should definitely be reading. It looks so interesting. Yeah. 2 more now. One of them is The House on Hutter Hill by Mickey Lish and Kylie. This one was in a Tales by Mail box subscription I got a few months back, and this was a very well read mystery novel actually during the second Believathon. People who read this actually gave this a very high rating, so I'm very interested in reading this. This one says, when Hetty and Spencer start seeing cryptic messages appear around their grandfather's spooky house on Hutter Hill, their holiday takes a sinister turn. What is their magician grandfather up to? What is he not telling them about the disappearance of their grandmother? With the help of a talking stag head and also talking bear rug and other peculiar spirits, the children set out to discover the truth. So it's a mystery set in this really gothic-y looking mansion, and I'm signing up for it. So I have heard some good reviews about this one, and I do genuinely want to read it. It sounds fantastic. Finally, I have another book that comes out on October 1st, and that is The Beast and the Bethany by Jack Megat Phillips, illustrated by Isabel Falath. I mean, one, I love this proof cover because it's bitten at the bottom there, and it's got the scratch there through the Do Not Feed the Beast. I will put the final cover image up here as well so you can see what it looks like. So this one says, Ebenezer Tweezer is a youthful 511-year-old who keeps a beast in the attic of his mansion. He feeds the beast all manner of things, and in return the beast vomits out presents for Ebenezer. But the beast grows ever greedier, and it's bored of a diet of parrots and performing monkeys. It's time for a new meal. Has the beast met its match in the Bethany? So this is perfect for fans of Lemony Snicket, the series of unfortunate events books. So I imagine it has that kind of strange and bizarre humour to it as well. And so far, early reviews of this has been extremely positive. So again, very excited to read this one. So there we have it. Those are my recommendations and the books that I'm really excited to read that will be perfect for fall. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like if you did, and leave a comment. Let me know if you've already read any of these, if you've read any of the books that I haven't personally read yet, and hype me up for them. I always love it when we talk middle grade, so do talk in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!